my mind just kind of scatters. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tara East. I'm a writer, blogger, YouTuber, and the author of the mystery novel Every Time He Dies. And in this week's video, I actually want to unpack something I mentioned in a previous video where I spoke about how beginning energy is so different to finishing energy. So a few weeks ago, I shared a post called 5 Lesser Known Writing Problems, and the number 1 problem on that list was being in between projects. So here I spoke about how starting energy is different to finishing energy, and a lot of writers really resonated with that point. And I wanted to unpack it a little further in this video. So starting a new writing endeavor, whether it be a long-term project such as a novel or a short-term project like an article or essay, is always a little bit tricky. Recently, I've become hyper aware of this as I work on my dissertation, in which 5 chapters will basically represent the last 3 years of research. Even though I know what my investigation is about, and I'm confident in the research I've conducted and the data and evidence that I've collected, every time I sit down to begin a new chapter, my mind just kind of scatters. It's really similar to when you have an idea for a fiction novel or a short story. You've got the basic idea or premise, and you're loosely aware of the topics that you want to explore. You know that you want to write about grief or female friendship, but you're not entirely sure what the message behind that theme will be. You don't yet know what you're really trying to say, or more specifically, how you're gonna say it. And that's why beginnings are so damn tricky. We may have everything we need to begin, an idea, a pen, and a slither of time, but launching headfirst into an open Word doc isn't always the best strategy. Obviously, this is why people created outlines and storyboards or covered their office wall in barely legible sticky notes, because we all need a little direction. We need to pull our scattered thoughts and the overwhelming number of possibilities back into something that's actually manageable. Beginnings are exhausting because there are so many decisions that we need to make. But outlines and sticky notes allow us to see these possibilities before you commit to a single structure. That being said, outlines are not fixed. They can be treated as a tool that you can use to get started, as if they were a map you only needed to refer to when you first step onto a track, but then abandon once you feel confident that you are on your way. Of course, you can always tweak an outline or completely dismiss it as you start writing, because we all know that so much knowledge and insight is gained through the act of writing. Something that I've noticed in writing my own dissertation is that the beginning of every new chapter feels impossible. Even though I understand my topic, I'm well researched in the area, and I'm pretty aware of what my ultimate conclusion is going to be. And yet, I have no idea how to form that mass of ideas and information into a neatly constructed, accessible, and convincing argument. So here's what it looks like for me. I wind up spending a couple of days word vomiting onto post-its and various documents on my computer, wondering what to include and what to leave out. Eventually, after all of this meandering, something clicks, or I just get so damn sick of chasing my own tail that I just sit down and I just start writing. I give myself full permission to be bad. While other writers prefer to be as efficient as possible, I'm a big supporter of Anne Lamont's shitty first draft philosophy. I don't mind if I have to cut or reshape the first 1,000 words of throat clearing if it leads me into a groove and an argument that I can actually use. Does that rhyme? I use the same approach when writing fiction too. Once I've figured out the basic premise and story arc, I let intuition lead the way. While thinking about what it is you want to say can make writing easier, it is the act of writing that forces you to clarify your message. Beginnings are hard because while your message may be simple, the exploration of your topic may not be. When we speak about the theme of the novel, we can usually whittle it down to a single sentence or a statement. And yet, The purpose of a novel is not to give a tidy Instagram quote, but an experience. We need to live through the lessons that guide us towards the conclusion. How you are going to explore the nuances of your argument, regardless of whether you're writing a novel, essay, or dissertation, is yet another thing you need to figure out. And here we cycle back to the idea of outlines and shitty first drafts. Strangely, we often forget how difficult beginnings are. We forget how researching a new topic can make us feel like we're stepping into a conversation, a very important conversation that we have no context for. We forget that beginnings are about gathering material and storing them in the linen cupboard until we eventually find a use for them. More than once, I've stood on the premise of a new chapter while looking longingly back over my shoulder at the chapter I've just completed. I am convinced that the last section was not nearly as hard as the one I'm now faced with. And that's true, because the finishing of the last chapter was easier than the beginning of the next one. But ultimately, that's okay, because I've got an outline and a permission slip to write a shitty first draft. While these maps may not lead me all the way to the top of my chapter, they're certainly enough to get me started. And when you know that beginning a project is just more difficult than finishing one, it just gives yourself a little bit of permission to go easy on yourself. You'll get there, little tiger. Now I'd love to hear from you. Do you struggle with beginnings? Do you find starting a new project really difficult? Or do you thrive on the energy, that beginning energy, but then struggle with follow through? I'd really love to know, so please leave a comment below and tell me all about it. Now, if you'd like even more writing advice, you can head to taraeast.com and dive into the archives, or check out the other videos on this channel. There's a whole bunch of them. Now, in addition to subscribing to this channel, which is wildly supportive, please consider joining my email newsletter as well. I put a link below in the description box. If you're interested, once you sign up, I'll send you a free gift. Woohoo! Plus, you'll also get an email from me every Thursday morning with links to that week's blog and video, a little note by me, an inspiring quote, and some resources I've recently enjoyed and think you will too. Thank you so much for being here and for watching and giving me your time. I really appreciate it. Now stay safe, stay calm, and keep writing, because the world actually does need more books.